Begin by opening up the rendering workspace. I'm going to turn off the 3D printed component, and we're going to add the appearance to the LED. Select the appearance, and in the library I'm going to search for LED, and now I'm going to choose the 5630 and just drag it right on top of the component that I want to adjust. Then in the appearance I'm going to double click and modify the luminance. If you drag the slider to the right, it's going to get brighter. I'm going to make it 50,000. Now I'm going to turn back on my design and modify its appearance. I want this to illuminate from the inside, so I'm going to use a translucent glossy blue plastic. I have to adjust these appearances slightly, so I'm going to double click and change the translucency depth to 0.01. I've already applied appearances to all of my other components, so now I'm going to adjust the scene setup. Select Scene Settings, and at this first slider you can actually change the brightness to the room. But first I'm going to go into Environment Library, and I like to use Photo Booth. This is really the lighting in the room and also how it affects the object. Change the brightness to around 600, and then you can change the position of the light to give you a nice range of highlights and shadows. I like turning on the flattened ground and reflections, and then change the color of the background to make your rendering pop. Since this has an LED, I'm going to go darker. Select Render, choose Video, and then this right option of 2.1 megapixel. This will load a thumbnail on the bottom of your rendering gallery, and this will take around 10 minutes to actually load. If you do an in-canvas render, this will take some time and will stop if you accidentally click anywhere else. Since you have to wait, go ahead and rotate your view around and start adding several other renderings to your rendering gallery. You can also drag parts to give this exploded view and to create a nice rendering of this explosion to communicate this whole design. Open up the thumbnail, then select Download. Download PNG, and then choose the location to save your rendering. Now it's time to create an animation. Open the animation workspace, create a new storyboard, select plus, and then select OK for a clean storyboard. As you drag this slider, you are specifying how much time you want to pass as you add an effect. I've slid mine out to 2 seconds and then navigate closer to my object. This has loaded a view in the timeline, which you can see it zooms in. I'm going to add another 4 seconds, and this time I'm going to rotate my object. Use the keyboard shortcut M for move, and I'm going to rotate the Z angle almost 360 degrees, so I'll type in 359.99. I now have a new feature on my timeline, and I'll hit the playback button. As the telephone booth rotates, you can see the text does not. If I expand my browser, you can see I have this organized in 2 different components. That way I could add appearances easily. So when I select the move option, I'm going to make sure I choose the parent component before I select move. If it doesn't rotate the way you assume, you might have to choose a different pivot point. If you choose this view is not recording option, you can navigate without actually loading the change of view in the timeline. I'm now going to set the Z angle and readjust this rotation. Now I can reset record view, and it will set my view back, and I can play back this recording so far. Continue to set your duration and then move your components as you want to see them animated. So here's another example. Scroll your time 2 seconds forward, and then I'm going to move my top component up about 1.5 inches and select OK. Now in this 2 second span, the phone booth will move up 1.5 inches. Continue to animate all of your components to show how this would be put together and how this assembly actually functions. You can still modify each of these features in the timeline by dragging them and scaling them. Select Publish and choose this format to output this MP4 file to your computer. Save it to your cloud storage so that way it's accessible from any device that you are working on. You should already have your technical drawings exported as a PDF, but in case you forgot, open up your data panel and navigate to your saved drawings. Select Export at the top right and choose PDF, all sheets. Then choose OK, and again save this to your cloud storage. Now we're ready to jump into your favorite video editor. I'm going to use iMovie since it's native to our iMac and our iPads. Open the app and choose Create New. Then select Import Media and navigate to your OneDrive file where you have all of your assets stored. Once they're all loaded, it's as simple as dragging each of the files down to the timeline in the order that you would want them displayed. You can always change the order and also change the duration of each of the clips. It's important to ensure that the file is not actually being cropped. You can also add this effect called Ken Burns, where it gradually zooms into a still image. You can add these preloaded transitions between each of your clips to make it more professional looking. You can also modify each of these settings as well if you double-click the small transition icon. I'm going to add the rest of my files to my timeline in the proper order, and then modifying the duration, and then cropping each of the images and adding any other special effects I'd like to each of these clips. To show all of the technical drawings, it's as simple as dragging the PDF down the timeline and it automatically flips through each of these pages. Just be warned that the PDF format is different than the 16:9 ratio of this video, so you will have to crop it to make sure it's actually fit to screen. When you intentionally create renderings with this nice asymmetrical negative space, they work great for title screens. So be creative and thoughtful with your final presentation and have fun with it. Play back and review your video presentation and make any final modifications. I like to add music to mine, so I'm going to add this track, and I'm just going to drag the file right underneath the timeline. Just be careful because you want to make sure it's the same length as the actual video, so it doesn't extend the file length. Now you're ready to export. Select Share, Export File, and make sure the resolution is 1080 and quality high is good enough. And then title your file and choose its save location for you to upload to this assignment. Make sure the video is fully exported before closing the application.